Is the quadrilateral ABCD a rectangle? So we have to answer this question in the form of either yes or no. So the first thing that we must focus on is that what are the properties of rectangle. So let me quickly explain the properties of rectangle here. Rectangle is a quadrilateral in which all the angles are 90 degrees, and along with that opposite sides are equal. The area is equal to L into B, perimeter is equal to 2 times of L plus B, but these formulas are not needed. Let's discuss the properties of diagonals. The properties of diagonals are they are equal, they bisect each other, but not essentially at 90 degrees. And if they bisect at 90, then it becomes a square. So the square is also a type of rectangle. So this is the first basic information about the rectangle which we need to answer this question. Now let's start reading the statements. The first statement says that AC and BD are perpendicular. So AC and BD are perpendicular. So if we name the rectangles of quadrilateral ABCD like this, then we understand AC is one diagonal, BD is another diagonal, and the diagonals are perpendicular. So now to answer the question, we need to think about the figures which have the diagonals perpendicular to each other. And our intention should always be to prove that the statement is not sufficient. So the first figure that I am drawing is a square, because we know that in a square the diagonals are equal, they bisect each other at 90 degrees, so they are perpendicular for sure, and the square is also a rectangle, so answer to the question is definitely yes. Now another figure that I would like to draw should be a figure in which the diagonals are perpendicular, yet it should not be a figure such as rectangle, because my intention is to prove the statement is not sufficient. So what I'm doing is I'm simply drawing two lines which are perpendicular, but since there is no information about them being equal or bisecting each other or not, so I just drew a sign like this, and then I am drawing a figure which is called a kite shape figure. And since this figure is not a rectangle, because it's a kite shape and it's not a rectangle, so the answer to the question is no. Now we have inconsistent answer, and we have been able to prove that the first statement is clearly not sufficient to answer the question. Now comes the second statement. We need to follow the second statement as well with the same intention. It says that AC is equal to BD. So we have two diagonals, AC and BD have to be the diagonals, two diagonals that are equal. So now can we think of two figures, one a rectangle, other not rectangle? That's the question. Then the answer is probably yes. We can once again think about it, because now we have once again drawn a square in which the diagonals are equal and it's a rectangle, so the answer to the question is yes. Now the second thing that we are trying to draw, so we could also draw an isosceles trapezium. Let me quickly tell you what an isosceles trapezium is. Isosceles trapezium is the one in which the non-parallel sides are also equal, and in this case if these two sides are equal, then the length of the diagonals will also be equal. So this diagonal, if I call it AC, the other diagonal will be equal to BD. And in this particular case, the answer to the question now is no. Therefore, once again, the inconsistency has come into the picture. So we say that the second statement alone as well is not sufficient to answer the question. Now the third step is to combine the two statements and see whether we can draw the figure. So we already have one figure that we have been using which is common to these two statements as well. That one we can draw is certainly a square, which answers to the question as yes, because it's a rectangle and it satisfies both the conditions. The diagonals are equal as well as they are perpendicular, right? And the second case, now the second figure we have to try to draw such that its diagonals are perpendicular, they are equal, as well as it's not a rectangle. So I am once again taking some inspiration from the kite figure. So I am drawing the two diagonals first. So I essentially have to draw two lines of equal length. So let's assume that these are two lines of equal length and they are definitely perpendicular to each other as well. And now if we join this quadrilateral, if we join the ends of these lines, we again have a quadrilateral in which we can name it as A, B, C, D. AC and BD are perpendicular. This angle is 90 degrees and AC is equal to BD. I have taken these two sides exactly equal, and the answer to the question is no. So even after combining the two statements, together the statements are not sufficient, and therefore the answer to the question becomes option E. That means even after combining the two statements, they're not sufficient. So now we need to realize that we have cracked this question at this point. Now we have been given that they are perpendicular, so it could be a rectangle. They are equal, so it could be a rectangle, but the question does not ensure that they bisect each other, and that's where we have brought in this new figure which looks like kite shape, which has equal diagonals, and we have proved that the statements are not sufficient. So our job should be to always draw the figure, and the intention should be to prove that this statement is not sufficient, and then we should just try to see what are the possible figures at our disposal. Thank you so much for watching this video.